Concert season is upon us, and maybe you remember your first concert experience. Maybe you were a kid, maybe a teenager, maybe you were in your 40s the first time that you went to a concert. Today, our guest is going to share a little bit about their first concert experience and some things they learned along the way and share some tips with you. So, grab a cup of coffee and take a seat and join the conversation because it's time for Coffee Breaks with Steve. Good morning. Welcome to Coffee Breaks with Steve. For those of you who are new, no, I am not Steve. My name is Karissa. I am the director on Coffee Breaks with Steve. And where is Steve today? Well, Steve is actually technically here. He's in the background right now. He has his birthday this past week, which I realized last week he conveniently managed to leave out of our upcoming birthday list. So happy belated birthday to Steve. But he had the pleasure of hosting all of his siblings at his house this weekend. So while he is technically here, he's hosting family and they have some things that they're going to be going and doing this morning. So I get the opportunity to spend this morning with all of you. If you are here, don't forget to say hi, go into our live chat and let us know that you're here. Before we get started today, we have some sweet and savory. Not a lot, but we do have some sweet and savory to share today. Of course, if Shalane were here, she'd be very excited about the charcuterie board, and maybe she'll get here today. We have one birthday to share with you. It's Tina Quinn. Her birthday is coming up this next week on the 11th, so happy birthday for Tina. And anybody whose birthdays, anniversaries, special events we didn't know about, you can always let us know that those are coming up. You can send them to us via email at cbwsteve@comcast.net. We'd love to share on those with you. You can also drop them in the chat for us to see. And speaking of the chat, let me see who's here so far. We've got Carol in the room. And Jerry is here. Jason is here. Good morning, everybody. I hope everybody has something to drink. Today is going to be an interesting, at least I think it's an interesting topic. And we might even run a little bit short today because our guest is a little bit short. So, we'll adjust the time to go with the height. Sorry, Shalane. I'm sorry I said short. My bad. Vertically challenged. Our guest is vertically challenged. So our time might be a little vertically challenged today. But concert season is upon us. The summertime is really when concert season gets up and going, and there's all different kinds of concerts to go to. People go to festivals, rock concerts. We actually have a hip hop concert that's coming up in our area in a couple of months that we're looking into. All kinds of different things. Classical, oh my gosh, classical concerts, all different kinds. And summer is the time to do it. So today we're going to talk to a guest who experienced their very, very first live concert just this past month. I want to apologize in advance if you hear any noise outside. We're mowing our lawn right now. We have great timing, so but hopefully you don't mind the noise. Hopefully it's not too loud. Before we get into our guest today, I wanted to share a video of a little bit of her experience. So hang tight and we're going to see if this will play for us today.
Yes.
You're so happy? Where are you? Where are you? Are you at Stray Kids? Are they gonna be right there? Are you happy? Was it worth standing in line for 2.5 hours? Yeah. Well, everybody, I would like you to welcome our special guest today. This is Karson. Karson, that looked like quite a show that you went to. Was that exciting?
Yes.
Awesome. So, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Who are you? What do you like? Who's Karson?
Hi, I'm Karson. I am 7 years old, and I like to draw.
You like to draw. What are some other things you like to do? You're an artist.
Yeah, I'm an artist. I do ballet.
You do ballet. What are some other things you like? What's your favorite thing in school? What's your favorite subject? Tough question. Is it lunch?
We're running out of things. We're running out of classes to do since it's almost the end of
It
the
is.
school
It's
year.
the end of the school year. You're going to be in second grade soon.
Like,
and
we're
what are we
done
going to
with
do?
writing. That used to be my favorite.
But if you were doing all your assignments, what's your favorite?
Writing.
You like writing. Okay, that's good. I'm glad. Well, we're going to share a little bit about your very first concert experience, and everybody else who's here. Again, don't forget to say hi. Let us know that you're here in the chat, and feel free to share either your concert experiences in the chat, and any tips or tricks that you've picked up along the way. Maybe you have never been to a live concert before and you're considering it and you have questions about the experience or what you should prepare for. Post those in the chat too. And we're going to talk a little bit about your experience. And I have a lot of notes, so I'm going to pull up my notes here so that I don't forget anything, because otherwise I'll throw us off. So you like music, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. What kind of music are you into?
Adele. Stray Kids.
Who do you sing with, Daddy?
Oh, Teddy Swim.
Teddy Swim. So you kind of like the pop genre is really right up your alley. Pop genre. You used to be a Swiftie. You don't listen to Taylor Swift as much anymore, but you like Taylor Swift's music, right?
Yeah, a couple of the songs, but I'm not really like into the music anymore.
Oh yeah, I know your music flavors change a lot, but that's okay. So you like pop music, and you recently got to attend your very first concert. We went on May 24th to see who?
Stray Kids.
Stray Kids. And who are Stray Kids?
It's this K-pop music group. They have 8 members, and
We've been listening to them since the fall, right?
Yeah.
So we're kind of new to them. Now, was this a concert that was close to home? Where did we have to go?
3 hours away to Seattle.
So we took a trip to Seattle. Had you ever been to Seattle before?
No.
No, you had not been to Seattle before. So that was new, right? And we had to drive and stay in a hotel. So we had to plan for all of that, right? Yeah. So that's part of the concert experience, is making all of those arrangements, getting to and from the concert, even if you're local. You got to figure out, how am I driving myself? Am I parking? Am I getting a lift? What am I doing, right? So that was an experience for us. Yeah. So, what was it like preparing to travel? How did you plan and prepare and pack? What was it that we needed to bring with us for this concert?
Okay, our light stick.
Light stick. Okay, we'll talk about that in a minute.
We didn't necessarily need to bring Foxany, but we brought Foxany.
Foxany is a stuffed animal. We'll get into that in a minute too. So we had to pack all of our clothes, obviously.
Yeah.
How did we have to plan our clothing? What were the things we were thinking about with that?
We were thinking of.
I know you want to see yourself. My notes are blocking you. What were we thinking about?
You're thinking of
concert outfit, right?
Outfits.
So we planned special outfits for the concert. And then of course we had to have, we were there for Friday was our travel day. Saturday was the concert. We had an event on Sunday morning, and then we had to travel back, right? So we needed to plan our packing for 3 days and our concert specific items, right? What are some things that you think people usually forget when they're packing? I know I always forget socks.
Yeah.
Socks is a big one.
She forgot to pack me socks.
Okay. In all fairness, she reminded me that I was supposed to pack her socks, and I just didn't grab them out of the laundry when I was doing it. Why? I don't know. So she remembered socks. I just didn't put them in the suitcase, right? What are some other things that people forget? I think people forget the small things. Like they might forget like enough underwear.
Yeah.
right? You're like, I have underwear, I'm fine. And then you realize I only brought one pair. What was I thinking?
They might forget pajamas.
Pajamas, because some people don't think about that. You're thinking about the daytime and you forget your pajamas.
They might forget a
jacket. Now, we actually had that issue on a trip once where somebody didn't bring a jacket. They thought they were going to be fine, and then they were not happy that they didn't have a jacket. So it's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. People forget things like your, deodorant. You might forget, or your toothbrush, or you brought your toothbrush and you forgot your toothpaste. So do you think it's important for people to actually make a list? I know people kind of roll their eyes at that. But you think it's helpful to have a list so you can go through and make sure everything is actually where it belongs?
Yeah, but I think next time we should repack. We pack the day before because we packed the day off.
Wow.
And we ended up not being able to go through things to make sure that we had all of it.
That's true. So technically, I was packing for like a week and a half. As we were not needing things that I knew we would need for the trip, I would put them in our suitcase. But some of the vital items that we couldn't pack until the last minute, we waited until the day of, some clothing stuff. And because I didn't actually make a list that I could check off, we actually left a vital piece of our belongings behind that we had gotten specifically for the concert. So I suggest that you actually make a list. I know people roll their eyes at it, but it's super helpful. Every single person has gotten someplace and be like, oh my gosh, I totally forgot this thing. So as you think of it, put it on the list, check it off, right?
But if you just don't want to make a list, pack the day before.
Pack ahead of time.
So that you have a day to make sure that you didn't forget anything.
Make your list, check it twice, right? Like Santa Claus does, right? So the day of the concert was its own experience, right? Originally, we had plans to go somewhere. Do you remember where we were supposed to go?
What's the first one?
Pike.
Pike Place.
Pike Place. Because we were in Seattle, and she'd never been, one of the things that we had planned to do, the concert was Saturday night at 7 o'clock, actually 7:30, right? So we had a whole day. And our original plan was that we were going to go and spend the morning at Pike Place, come back and get ready for the concert, maybe take a nap. As the morning got going, we realized that with the amount of things that we had planned to do to get ready for this concert, that was not feasible. And it's probably a really good thing that we decided that, because it took us all day to get ready, didn't it? Like literally all day. Now, that might not apply to everybody. I think guys in general probably will take less time to get ready for something like a concert than girls. K-pop is its own special. There's a whole different culture around it. So not every concert are people going to plan full outfits or, do their hair special or have extra things they have to plan for.
Makeup.
But some people do like to do that. Some people like to go all out. So your hair by itself took probably at least an hour and a half. Just your hair. And we fought with it a little bit. There were points where mommy was using not nice words, probably. So each of us had aspects of getting ready that took some time. And we even did our nails, right? Yeah. I did my nails twice because my nails didn't work out.
Her nails. So she has a friend that makes nails, and she made them.
We had concert-specific nails, yep.
But she used a different nail glue, so it didn't work.
Yeah. So that's maybe another good tip. Maybe test things out before you.
We also realized that I did not like nail polish. I scraped it all off.
I still have mine on 2 weeks after the concert. Mine is still half on there. But she picked all of her nail polish off. So I think it's a good recommendation for people to maybe not try new things when you're there. Test them out beforehand. We actually tested out our face sparkles beforehand. That's something that we tested in our makeup. She
didn't get to wear them.
But even that, we tested them. We did them right the first time. And then when we got to the day of, I was so frazzled and so, trying to get ready. I actually did them wrong and I couldn't wear mine. I applied them incorrectly and it didn't work. So I had to give her the other set to make sure hers worked properly. So even best laid plans and planning ahead, you can still run into issues. Actually, with my nails, I had used the nail glue before that we're talking about. But it was a fairly new product to me. And so because I didn't go with what I knew worked, I ended up in trouble with my nails. So we ran into a couple of hiccups along the way. There were some other things that we had to plan for the day of too. Like we had to deal with the phone issue. What happened with my phone?
So,
we didn't plug it in overnight the night before.
She.
I don't know why.
So we got to plug it in, like when
a couple hours before.
Yeah, but she made a mistake.
I did. I made a big mistake with my charger. Do you remember what I did that was messed up with the charger?
You put it in.
I plugged it into a USB port in a lamp instead of using a cube, right?
Not using the wall.
So I used a lower powered appliance basically to charge my phone instead of plugging in the cube to the actual outlet. And a lot of people don't think about that, especially with some of the newer phones. If you don't use the right charger or you're not using the right charging port, it will charge your phone very slowly. It actually won't charge properly. And I didn't think about that. I didn't realize that. I had a cube with me, but I just figured that port was just easily accessible. I didn't have to look for an outlet. And we got to about an hour before the concert, and my phone was at 40%.
So we needed her phone for our tickets and for the lift.
And for the lift, because that's another thing we had to plan for is transportation. Originally, when we planned this trip, Jason was going to be coming to Seattle with us. And the plan was he's going to drop us off at the concert venue and pick us up. I'm actually kind of glad he didn't because he hates driving in the city. And it was it wasn't a disaster, but you got to figure thousands of people are coming to the show. And trying to navigate a city you don't know in the downtown area in your own car, just a hassle. So we ended up taking a Lyft. And that's something else we had to plan for because financially that has an impact on what you're doing for your weekend. So when you're planning ahead, you got to plan for the money too, right? What costs money? Everything costs money. So that was something that we had to take into account. But we needed my phone not only to get a Lyft there, but to order one back. So could I have my phone on during the concert? No. So we ended up getting very few pictures and videos. Most of what you saw in that opening video package was borrowed from other people because we didn't have a working phone with us.
Yeah, I only got 2 pictures and 1 short video.
Yeah, and that's the other thing we dealt with the phone is that on your phone, what was the problem? What didn't you have? Enough space on your phone, right?
So I would suggest to a week before you leave, clear out your memory and don't take photos or videos of things that you don't need to.
Yeah, that's one of the things because you like to do a lot of like TikTok content, and so you have some large video files. I like the idea of going in a week before and not right before because that gives you plenty of time, especially if you put a lot of videos and photos on your phone, which most of us do these days. Gives you an opportunity to really take your time and go through and figure out what you need to keep on your phone, what maybe you can back up somewhere else or just delete.
Like 160 pictures of my dog on my phone.
Just of the dog. That's not even including everything else on there, right? Yeah, so that's something that I didn't even think of. My phone happens to have quite a bit of memory on it, but some people's phones don't. Maybe you're using a hand-me-down phone, or maybe your phone is super full. So that's something to take into consideration far ahead of your event, right?
I had my battery saver on, but the problem was I still only had 30%, and
I didn't think about putting my battery saver
on. Was like completely full.
Yeah.
And the thing with my phone is if you run out of storage, you have to wait at least a couple hours for you to get my phone to reset and for the things to be out of there.
Yeah.
So I got super frustrated because I was trying to clear my memory super fast.
And it wasn't working, right? Couldn't do it super fast. You need to take the time to do that. Now, Karson, what was your favorite part of the concert, do you think?
When the song Giant was on, they had a huge statue coming out of the stage.
Yeah, and we actually saw that in the video. It actually is like a hot air balloon type of thing that they have packed up behind the stage, and then they fill it up and it comes up on the stage. That was pretty cool. Do you remember everybody in the audience went, yeah, that was pretty cool, huh?
Oh, I also have another favorite.
Yeah.
Felix said, "Are you ready?" We said yes, too quiet. Then he said, "I said, are you Yay!
Now, who is Felix? Why did that make you so happy? You really like Felix. What do we call him?
My bias.
Your bias. So in K-pop in particular, if you have a favorite member or favorite members, they're your bias. So you liked it when your bias was up on stage doing stuff, right? There he is right there with the air cannon. Yeah, and then how about what was your favorite song at the concert? Do you remember?
La 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 la.
La 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 was your favorite song in the concert. There's Felix again. Felix.
He has a deep voice, which I also like.
Yeah, you do like that about him.
Oh,
So now we have a question. It says, Karson, now that you have experienced one concert, are there any other artists that you'd like to see and hear in person? Are there any other concerts that you think you want to go to?
Nah.
No.
I don't think so. Not yet.
Do you remember what you told me when we were at the concert?
That I really loved it. I loved it with all my heart. I can't even describe it in words, but I'm not into the songs.
So you kind of felt like you weren't super ready for it. You didn't feel quite prepared.
And I said, when I'm 9, you can come back because it wasn't that it was too noisy. The screams were louder than the music.
Mm-hmm.
So it was great. I loved it, and it wasn't the noise. It was that I didn't know the song lyrics that much. I didn't know a bunch. I knew a bunch of the songs, but some of them I just didn't know the lyrics to. I didn't know the songs.
It's hard too because a lot of them were in another language, right? So that is part of it. So now one of the things that we had talked about before the concert that we ended up not doing, there were two things. We talked about letting you watch the music videos for the songs that we were pretty sure were going to be in the concert. You opted not to do that. Do you think it would have been more fun for you if you had watched those and you kind of knew the songs a little better? No, it wouldn't have mattered to you.
I feel like I would like the stage performance better.
Okay. And we also talked about putting together just the playlist of the songs so you could just hear them and familiarize yourself.
Yeah, but we never did that.
We didn't finalize that, and so I never played it for you. Now, do you think just hearing the songs and just being more familiar with them would have also helped you engage more?
Yes.
Okay. So that's something to keep in mind, too. There were people at the concert that we know who were just going as Stay support. Stay is the fandom. So there were parents there that were just going because their kids really like Stray Kids. We even we knew that one of your teachers was going to be there, right? But she was going because her friend is a fan.
So here's the story. So one time, I was sitting in the after school program and after school program at my school, you just stay after school until like 5 p.m. and then a bus drops you off.
Right, after school program.
Yeah. And I haven't been in after school program for a while now, so we knew
this
about
is back in like November.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Miss Shu was working for Red Squirrel that day because Miss Wall wasn't there. Red Squirrel is a different bus.
So this is the bus, basically the bus monitor that you were talking to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and I said, "Hey, Miss Shu, guess what?" And she said, "What?" I am going to my first concert, and she was like, "Oh, what's the concert?" I said, "Stray Kids," and she said, "You know what? I'm actually going for my birthday with my friend."
Yeah. Now, but she told you that she wasn't really a fan. She didn't know too much about Stray Kids, but her friend was, and her friend was going to take her to the concert, right? And it turned out that Miss Shu was actually only sitting 2 sections away from us, right?
Yeah.
So she came and found you before we left the concert, didn't she?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, because my phone wasn't well charged, we didn't get a picture. But there are definitely people who go to concerts not because they're necessarily big fans of the music, but they're there with somebody else who wants to bring them along. And so it can help you engage a lot more with any kind of concert if you familiarize yourself with the artist or the music style, just so that you have an idea of what you're walking into, unless you really like being completely surprised. I would say that even knowing all of the discography that we heard at the show, there were still a lot of surprises for us. But you had mentioned the screaming. So we brought some things along with us on this trip that we specifically wanted for this concert. What was something that we had with you that was very useful? What did you
The
wear?
noise-canceling headphones.
Noise-canceling headphones.
And tissues.
And tissues. We're going to get into the tissues in a second. So let's talk about some tips that you have. So first we talked about your packing tips. Packing tips are make sure that you make a list and pack in advance, right?
Oh, I would also suggest bringing a lint roller if you have a bunch of pets, like we have 15. We have 15 pets.
So lint roller, a must, especially if you're wearing any kind of dark colors. I had to lint roll my shoes, believe it or not. I did. I lint rolled my shoes. So lint rollers are really good. That's another one of those small items you might not think about. But also, there are some items that we brought with us that we ended up not necessarily needing. So what's your tips for people on when they decide what to pack? Like, should they just bring everything they can think of if they can fit it, or should they really be careful about what they're packing and think it through?
Really be careful and think it through. Because, like, if you want to bring, like, my mom loves chopstick sheets.
I use chopsticks when I eat. That's true. So do I need to bring all my chopsticks?
No.
I really don't.
Like, we didn't end up really going to a restaurant except Wendy's.
We went to Wendy's and Starbucks. That was the food that we ate over the weekend.
So think about what you really need and don't.
And we brought some things with us that we ended up not using. We actually forgot to use something on our hair. So we had gotten hair bling machines for Christmas, and we were saving them to use at the concert, and we had them with us. Are you comfortable? Because I don't know if I can operate like this. We brought them with us, but then in the hubbub of everything else, we actually forgot to use them. So they were actually two pretty decent sized boxes that just ended up taking up space. And if you're flying somewhere, that's even more constricting on what you're able to bring with you, because not only are there regulations on what you can bring on a flight, but you're limited to how many bags you have and the space that you have in those bags. So all of those are really important things to consider. Getting ready tips. What are things that people should think about on the day of the concert that they need to really consider in terms of how much time they have and what they're doing? We took showers, right? You don't want to be stinky at a concert, especially if you're out in the sun all day like we are. We were out in the sun for a long time, and then we were packed into a stadium. So I would suggest take a shower. Don't be that stinky person at the concert, right? How about you? What are some tips for the day of and getting ready?
Day of getting ready. Okay, you need to first start by organizing your stuff. And
we kind of made a mess.
Yeah.
I gotta turn you. You're making me really fall asleep.
And my aunt was coming, like right as we were leaving. Mm-hmm. So when we were done getting ready, we needed to clean up everything. Yep.
If you can stay organized, especially if you're staying in a hotel room, if you can stay organized while you're getting ready, it definitely helps with, first of all, finding things as you go and you need them, because we kind of were spread all over our hotel room, and it was really hard to keep track of where everything was. And then our Auntie Cheech, my sister, her aunt, was meeting us at the hotel just before we left, and we didn't want to leave a huge mess for her. So we had to try to clean up as best we can. There's a question here. It says, you mentioned standing in line for 2 hours before. In addition to the concert itself, did you have water with you? So in the package at the beginning of the video, you saw there were people standing in line on both sides of the street. I think that we actually did more walking and standing in line for this concert than we did the whole time we were at Disneyland. Would you say that's accurate? It was a lot of walking. We were outside in line, not counting getting to the end of the line, which was its own adventure. We were in line for 2.5 hours in the sun, very little shade. And
she had to pour water on my back.
I had to pour water on your back. So we did have one bottle of water with us, right?
But I don't like super warm water. So once it turns super warm, I do not drink.
That's when we started pouring it on you, right? So we had a bottle of water that we were sipping on to make it last. And the other thing that I found at this concert, and I think is pretty common at a lot of concerts where you've got people lined up, in the city, there were people walking around as we were in line, who had, bottles of water for $1. There were, a hot dog for $1. So you have those people out there who are willing to sell you. But most venues are now, they don't accept paper money. Usually most of the venues now that I'm aware of only accept card. So a lot of people forget to have any kind of like dollar bills on them or small change in order to buy those things while you're standing in line. So that is a suggestion that I would make, is that even if it's a card only venue, consider that you might still need small bills for something while you're there, and it's best to have both with you if you can.
Bring tissues.
Um,
That was a must need.
that was another one. I'm going to read this question really quick and then we'll get to the tissues. Minzy asked, since you forgot to put hair bling on, would you recommend making a list of what to do for getting ready for the concert too? That is a good suggestion. I think for us, because we've been planning our outfits and our look for months, we had it pretty well planned out, but we even ran into some issues with that because we got some of the supplies the day of. Again, back to the recommendation of not waiting to the last second to try things out, because we were going to do hair chalk to color our hair, and that ended up not working right.
Yeah, and I was super upset because the hair
Well,
chalk.
you weren't super upset. You thought you were going to have to return the doll that came with it.
The hair chalk came with the doll. There was no other hair chalk that didn't come with the doll.
So you thought that because the hair chalk didn't work and I wanted to return the hair chalk, that we'd have to return the doll. You didn't care about the hair chalk. But that was one of those things, again, that it didn't work out, and we could have gotten really mad about it. And there was a moment where I was frustrated, and we could have let it ruin our day. But we just decided, you know what? Let's move on. But yes, that's a good suggestion. Is if you have specific things that you want to do, it's a good idea to kind of write them out in order so that you can set your time properly. Like I said, it took us almost all day to get ready for this thing, and so there was a lot that went into it. Think of it kind of as like getting ready for a wedding or prom. We kind of made that big of a deal about it. And again, that's not going to apply to everybody. But for some people, if you're going all out like we did at this concert, definitely. Now, you mentioned the tissues. I have brought, and in fact, I want to show with you because this goes into planning for the venue rules. Nowadays, venues are going to have rules about the types of bags and belongings that you can bring in. Most venues, if not all venues now, require you to have a clear bag of some kind. You can't bring in like a normal purse in a lot of cases. And that is to make it easier to get through security. If they can already see what's in your bag, they don't have to stop and search everybody, which takes a lot longer to get through the line. So a lot of the venues require clear bags under a certain size. So we actually purchased bags specifically for this concert. We did test them at Disneyland the month before. We used them to make sure that we weren't having issues with storing what we needed in them, access, that they weren't driving us crazy. And so we did test these out. And in our bags, one of the things that we had was a small tissue pack. Okay.
Because she thought she was going to cry.
I thought I was going to cry during the concert. I surprisingly didn't. But what did we find we actually needed to use the tissues for? Surprisingly.
Okay, before I say that, I'm going to
go for it.
So
you do you, boo.
I went to the bathroom we packed all we got in the I went to the bathroom.
She went to the bathroom before we left. We swear she did. But we were in line for 2.5 hours. I mean, what are you gonna do?
But as soon as we got to the end of the line, I needed to use the bathroom.
Not she had to hold it for a while.
Of the line.
No, right at the end of the line.
Thank God that there was porta potties on the way.
But we were lucky that there happened to be a construction site nearby, and they had an open porta potty on the path that we were lined up on. That may not be the case at whatever concert you're going to. There may not be a public restroom that's easily accessible from the line. But what did we run into an issue with in the bathroom? What didn't they have?
No toilet paper in any of them.
No toilet paper in any of them.
Mom was just passing tissues out to random stay.
Yep. So we brought tissues thinking we were going to need them for crying and running makeup, but we ended up handing them out to our fellow stay so that people could pee in the concert line. So turns out really useful. A lot of people in some of the Facebook groups that we've commented on were saying they bring, Steve says wear a diaper. I'm not going to lie. It was considered. It was discussed. I'm not going to lie. Especially if you're older like me and you have a weak bladder. Consider people. Never say never, okay? But, some people have said bring wet wipes for the same reason, crying, makeup running. And again, if the porta potties also didn't have any hand sanitizer, so wet wipes, hand sanitizer, that kind of thing, you can get the small bottles of hand sanitizer, which as small as this bag is, I still have tons of room in here. I have lots and lots of room in here. We brought a lot of stuff with us to Disneyland. I don't have a wallet in here. I kept my cards in their own little zipper pocket. So I had my ID and all that in this little pocket here, and then I could fit plenty more stuff in the main pocket of this. So check the venue, check what their requirements are. Most of them are posted on their website. If not, you can contact the venue directly. I even had people who were sending emails to the venues with like, this is the bag that I'm thinking about getting, doesn't meet your requirements, and the venues would respond yes or no, that does or does not meet our requirements. So that's super important. Let's see here now. Okay, our concert was a little bit different than a lot of other concerts because of the way that K-pop culture is. The reason that the line was so long is actually because we broke some records with attendance. T-Mobile Park is where they were holding the concert at, and they had never sold out. I don't know that they've ever even had a K-pop show there before. So they were not prepared for the madness. And we had over 41,000 people attending that concert. It was a sold out show, and the venue was not prepared. So that's something else they think people need to be ready for, is that sometimes the venues may not have their whole act together.
We ended up in a glob.
We ended up in a glob. They were directing us where to go. They were like, we were crossing streets, and we walked probably 9 city blocks to find the end of the line where they told us to go. And by the time we were about a quarter of the way through the line, they had directed other people to sprout off on these other lines. And so it was very discombobulated at this particular venue because they just weren't prepared. And yes, Carol, this is just the line to get in, to go through security. So once you're in the doors, then if they're checking bags, you would have to go through that too. We didn't have to have our bags checked because they required clear bags. If you did not have a clear bag, they would either make you leave the bag or they would check you separately. Once the line was moving, it was moving pretty quickly. I mean, we really weren't standing in one place for very long at any one point once the line was moving, but it was just so many people, and they were discombobulated at the venue. Once we got inside, everything was great. So yes, we were actually planning on arriving a little bit later than we did, and I decided not to take that chance. And I'm really, really glad because there were still people outside waiting in line when the show started. So there are people who missed the beginning of the show because they were still waiting to get into the venue. So that is something to plan for. But you know, things can go wrong. And we had a lot of little things happen to go wrong. And then we, had to deal with the stress of the crowd. And we could have really let that ruin the whole event. Did we let that happen?
No.
Did we still have a ton of fun?
Yes.
Was it super awesome?
Yes.
Yes, I'm glad. Now, the other thing that's a little bit different about the concert that we went to, but may still apply to a concert that you go to. For example, this does apply to Dimash Kudaibergen concerts. It kind of fits more in the Asian culture, concert culture range, but it's spreading. The popularity is spreading, and that is freebies. There is a thing that happens at K-pop culture concerts where people will make things to give you, and they will hand them out. So we actually have some here that have to do with people made these, and we're just handing them out for free. And there's all different kinds. We made about 200 bracelets in the months leading up to the concert. So we had to plan ahead to get all the supplies and make those. We invested our own money in that. So that's something that if you're doing freebies, you have to consider what you want to do, and how much money and time it's going to take. I know we're going to get to that in a second. And also you have to consider transporting these to the concert. So again, our venue had rules about what you could and could not bring in. So we were allowed to bring 1 gallon clear Ziploc bags, and the venue did not have a limit on how many you could bring. It just said 1 gallon. It had to be the size, and they had to be clear. So we had 2 completely full 1 gallon Ziploc bags full of freebies. I mean, up to the brim. And as we were handing our freebies out, we were also receiving freebies, right? So until we had emptied out one of our bags, all of the freebies were kind of going into your hands and your bag and your pockets, right? So we were having to juggle our concert bags. We each had a sweater with us, a hoodie with us, or a jacket with us. We had another thing that is pretty specific to K-pop culture is our light stick. Not everybody gets these. They're kind of expensive. But you saw in the video all of the lights that were blinking. They actually synchronize these at the concert venue. So all the lights are doing the same thing. So it's an interactive part of the show. We highly recommend getting a strap or some other way to be hands-free with your light stick when you're not actively using it. But we had this with us. We had, as Karson mentioned, our Foxy, which is a plush stuffed animal that's about this big, specific to our K-pop band that we were going to see. We brought him with us, and that was an issue in and of itself. And then we had 2 whole bags that we had to keep track of. And then when we got into the concert venue, they have banners, which you can see are displayed on our wall here. So we each had a banner. So that's a lot of things to have in your hands for a whole concert. And she's got little hands. So I was carrying most of it, right? So that's something to consider if you're doing anything. People, even if you're not doing K-pop, I mean, you go to a sporting event. When I was in Pittsburgh, we had the terrible towels we had to keep track of. People get the big foam fingers, and you might get a light stick or something. Everything that you add to your hands is one more thing you have to keep track of, one more thing you have to juggle. So it's important to plan ahead on what you're bringing and how you're carrying that around, right? And what did we end up having a problem with because we had so much stuff? Who did we leave behind? Foxy actually got left at the venue. We didn't realize it until the next morning when we went to go pack up and leave the hotel room that we didn't have a Foxy. He got left in the cup holder. We have another question about sun gear. We had very little sun gear with us. We could have brought your baseball cap, but we had done your hair. So that's something to keep in mind is if you're doing hair, if you're doing certain makeup, if you don't want to, have something on your head, how do you plan for sun gear? So what did we make sure we brought to put on? We put sunscreen on, didn't we? We put sunscreen on you. I didn't put sunscreen on. I should have. Luckily, I didn't burn.
Yesterday, I got a burn on my face.
Even with sunscreen on, right? You got a little bit of a sunburn. You got to remember to reapply it. We got the little travel, and again, this fit in my travel bag. We got a little travel size spray sunscreen. And so we made sure we had that. Make sure that you have a full one. That's why she ended up getting sunburned yesterday, is that we tried to use the remainder of that on her field trip yesterday, and we ran out. She didn't have quite enough. So I would recommend getting a new travel size sunscreen to make sure that you can reapply and have all that going on. And then finally, to wrap things up, we had a pretty good time. You said that you think you'd want to wait for a little while to go to another concert again, but what?
Sun umbrellas would work.
Sun umbrellas would work, but it is one more thing for you to carry with you. That's true. So overall, do you think that your first concert experience was a good experience? I dropped your water.
It sprayed me.
I'm sorry. Is it leaking?
No.
Well, why don't you pick it up? Do you think that your very first experience was a good concert experience?
Yes.
Yes. Sorry that I sprayed you with water. And would you suggest that people make lists, check things ahead of time,
Yes.
try things out ahead of time, but that it's worth it to go to a concert?
Yes.
Cool. Well, thank you so much, Karson, for sharing that with us. I'm glad that you had fun at your first concert. We're going to go ahead and wrap things up today. I thought we were going to go short, but actually we went pretty much right on time here. We want to tell you a little bit about what is coming up on Coffee Breaks with Steve. Next week, we have on June 14th, Making a Difference with Sarah Medding. And she's going to be our guest next week. We already recorded that conversation with her, so it's going to be really interesting how you can make a difference and what that looks like in different situations for different people. If you have any topics that you would like us to cover, if you have any guests that you would like to see here on Coffee Breaks with Steve, we'd love to hear from you. You can go ahead and email us at cbwsteve@comcast.net and share those ideas with us, make introductions if needed. This is just a reminder, we have been on the air for 6 years. We've had 274 episodes. 142 of those episodes have been with guests and 96 individual guests. Some of those have been return guests like me who've gotten to come back. And some of them we're getting, for one time, and then we hopefully get to hear from them again. But you guys all help us make that possible with the people that you've brought to us and the topics that you've recommended. So we want to say thank you for being here with us, joining in on the conversations every week. And of course, we want to remind you guys that most of you are tuning in on Facebook, but we are on YouTube. We would love to have you check out our YouTube channel, share the videos with other people. There are some people who don't use Facebook. Totally understandable. But YouTube is a great way to share these awesome conversations and guests and topics with other people that you think would enjoy them too. So definitely go check out our YouTube channel. And other than that, is there anything that you want to tell anybody out there? Thanks for joining us for talking about concerts. Go ahead.
Measure your nose and your ears, see if they match.
We tried that yesterday. We discovered that our noses and our ears are the same size. But other than that, please continue to share in the comments. We're gonna go back through and read everybody's comments about their first concerts and their tips and tricks. We'd love to hear all of your tips and tricks and any questions that you have. Thank you so much for joining us. As always, we want to encourage you to go out and find a way to make a difference in your world today, this weekend, this week, and we hope you guys all have a great weekend.